안녕하세요. 스테디윈입니다. 매일 꾸준히 하면 성공합니다. 오늘도 힘차게 영어를 마스터해 보세요. 파이팅!
Les Misérables by Victor Hugo.
빅토르 위고의 레 미제라블 3단계 영어 원문과 영어 음성을 시청하며 확인 학습하기.
So long as there shall exist, by reason of law and custom, a social condemnation which, in the midst of civilization, artificially creates a hell on earth, and complicates with human fatality a destiny that is divine. So long as the three problems of the century, the degradation of man by the exploitation of his labor, the ruin of woman by starvation, and the atrophy of childhood by physical and spiritual night, are not solved. So long as, in certain regions, social asphyxia shall be possible. In other words, and from a still broader point of view, so long as ignorance and misery remain on earth, there should be a need for books such as this. Hopeville House, 1862. Part 1. Fantine.
제1부 팡틴
Chapter 1. An Upright Man.
제1장 올바른 사람
Number 1. Monsieur Myriel.
1. 미리엘 씨
In 1815, Monsieur Charles-François Bienvenu Myriel was Bishop of Digne. He was then about 75, and had presided over the Diocese of Digne since 1806. Although it in no way concerns our story, it might be worthwhile, if only for the sake of accuracy, to mention the rumors and gossip about him that were making the rounds when he first came to the diocese. Whether true or false, what is said about men often has as much influence on their lives, and particularly on their destinies, as what they do. Monsieur Myriel was the son of a judge of the Superior Court of Aix, with the rank acquired by many in the legal profession. It was said that his father, expecting him to inherit his position, had arranged a marriage for the son, at the early age of 18 or 20. Following the custom among these privileged families. Despite his marriage, Charles Myriel had attracted a great deal of attention. Handsome, though not very tall, he was elegant, graceful, and witty. His early years had been devoted to worldly pleasures. With the Revolution, events moved quickly. Hunted down, decimated, or forced into exile, these families were soon dispersed. At the first outbreak of the Revolution, Monsieur Charles Myriel emigrated to Italy. After a protracted illness, his wife ultimately died there of a lung disease. They had no children. What happened next to Monsieur Myriel? The collapse of the old French society, the downfall of his own family. The tragic scenes of 1793, still more terrifying perhaps to the exiles, who witnessed them from afar, magnified by horror. Did these inspire him with thoughts of renunciation and solitude? In the midst of the flirtations and diversions that consumed his life at that time, was he suddenly overcome by one of those mysterious, inner blows that sometimes strike the heart of the man who could not be shaken by public disasters of his life and fortune? Who could say? We do know that, when he returned from Italy, he was a priest. In 1804, Monsieur Myriel was curé of Brinoles. He was already an old man, and living in deep seclusion. About the time of Napoleon's coronation, some trifling business of his parish, no one remembers precisely what it was, took him to Paris. Among other influential people, he went to see Cardinal Fesch, on behalf of his parishioners. One day, when the emperor had come to call on his uncle the cardinal, our worthy priest happened to be waiting, as his majesty went by. Noticing that the old man looked at him with a certain curiosity, Napoleon turned around, and said brusquely, "Who is this good man looking at me?" "Sire," replied Monsieur Myriel, "you are looking at a good man, and I at a great one. May we both be the better for it." That evening, the emperor asked the cardinal the priest's name. Still later, Monsieur Myriel was totally surprised to learn he had been appointed Bishop of Digne. Beyond this, who could tell how much truth there was in the stories concerning Monsieur Myriel's early years? Few families had known the Myriels before the Revolution. Monsieur Myriel had to submit to the fate of every newcomer in a small town, where many tongues talk, but few heads think. Although he was bishop, in fact, because he had to submit. But, after all, the gossip linked with his name was only gossip. Rumor, talk, words, less than words, palabres, as they say in the lively language of the South. Be that as it may, after 9 years of residence, as Bishop of Digne, all these tales, which are initially engrossing to small towns and petty people, were entirely forgotten. Nobody would have dared to speak of them, or even remember them. When Monsieur Myriel came to Digne, he was accompanied by an old unmarried lady, Mademoiselle Baptistine, his sister, 10 years younger than himself. Their only servant was a woman, about the same age as Mademoiselle Baptistine, Madame Magloire, who, already the servant of the priest, now took the double title of Mademoiselle's maid, and the bishop's housekeeper. Tall and thin, Mademoiselle Baptistine was a pale and gentle person. She was the incarnation of the word, respectable, whereas to be venerable, a woman should also be a mother. She had never been pretty. Her whole life, which had been a succession of pious works, had finally cloaked her in a kind of transparent whiteness. And in growing old, she had acquired the beauty of goodness. What had been thinness in her youth, was in her maturity a transparency, and this ethereal quality permitted glimmers of the angel within. She was more of a spirit than a virgin mortal. Her form seemed made of shadows, scarcely enough body to convey the thought of sex. A little substance containing a spark, large eyes, always downcast, a pretext for a soul to remain on earth. Madame Magloire was a little old woman, white-haired, plump, bustling, always out of breath, because of her constant activity and also her asthma. On his arrival, Monsieur Myriel was installed in his bishop's palace, with the honors prescribed by the imperial decrees, which ranked the bishop right below the field marshal. The mayor and the presiding judge called on him first, and he, for his part, paid like honor to the general and the prefect. The installation complete, the town waited to see its new bishop at work.
이 영상이 도움이 되셨다면 좋아요 그리고 구독 부탁드립니다.